Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Digital Relics podcast, where every week we share our thoughts on games, movies, and politics. I'm your host, Jason Stever, and I'm joined today by my good friends Nick Sandelsky.
Hey guys.
And Josh Greenwood.
Hello.
So, we gotta say, we just finished talking about the beginning of our podcast for the last half an hour, and then we realized that we weren't actually recording. So,
sabotage.
It's the Russians. It's the Russians.
So here we go again. So I just want to start this week by talking a little bit more about the Switch. So for full disclosure to our listeners, this will be another very Switch-centric episode. So I just want to start by saying that in an interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé of Nintendo of America, he's the president, he has revealed that the first 5-day sales have been the best sales for any Nintendo system ever for the Nintendo Switch. So that's really good news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we said in our previous recording that was not recorded, we were comparing that to the Wii, which came out during the holiday season. So comparing that to a March release for the Nintendo Switch, that just shows very, very positive signs for a beginning for the hardware going forward.
And historically, console launches really haven't seen any success in March or in the summer when they've tried in the past. So it's a really, really good sign for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about before, but I just wanted to say that when we originally saw the Switch reveal, which kind of showcased the first games, and they really focused on 1-2 Switch, which was kind of like I don't know. We kind of had a sour taste in our mouths, and I certainly left kind of thinking, like, does Nintendo know what the hell they're doing? Are they going to have a successful launch here? But now that the system's out and the hype has been built up, and there's a lot of good word of mouth, and they're sold out everywhere, and now you're hearing that they're having the first, the best first 5-day sales of any Nintendo console ever. You start to look at things a little differently. And I think actually Nintendo has a brilliant plan put forth, and I think a lot of people missed out on this plan. But obviously they opened up with only the 5 launch games, but they did have Zelda, which at the time nobody knew how good Zelda was going to be. Zelda's always solid, but now that it's out, obviously it's been reviewed as literally one of the top 2 games of all time.
Wait. Can I get one question in here? Mm-hmm. What is 1-2 Switch? Because to me, I don't know many of the games other than Zelda, but like 1-2 Switch just seems like a really poor title for a game.
1-2 Switch is hilarious. It's pretty much a game that clearly should have been a pack-in game for free with the system, but instead it's sold for $50. And it's pretty much a game that showcases a lot of the abilities of the Joy-Cons. Like some of the motion capabilities and the HD rumble and the infrared capabilities of them. And they're all these fun... Okay, I shouldn't even say fun.
Right.
They exist. They exist. They're little mini games that exist. So there's one where like you're pretending you're milking a cow. So you take the Joy-Con and like you grab the udder and you squeeze it and you pull down, and you grab the udder and you squeeze it and you pull down. And there's
one where you eat a sandwich.
Yeah, there's one where you put the controller in front of your mouth and you go, and the faster you move your mouth, the faster the sandwich goes away. And then there's one where we mentioned this last week. That was actually where the title of last week's episode came from, where there's a cup of balls and like you're shaking the Joy-Con being like, I think there's 3 balls in here or something. And it's a bunch of mini games like that.
Aren't there like 30 or 40 mini games?
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I'd really like to know the process that was thought up to create this game. I mean, was somebody just eating a sandwich and be like, this would be a fucking great game.
The developers are probably the programmers were they went to the engineering department. They're probably saying, okay, what can we do with this hardware?
Yeah.
You probably could just
eat a sandwich.
Have you ever wanted to shake some balls? So yeah.
You wanted to milk a cow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably what they did.
It's everything we want to do with technology that we can't. We want to eat our systems. God damn it.
Yeah, and just for the record, that game I think on OpenCritic is like 57 or something. It's supposed to be fun enough, but it's not worth $50. Mm-hmm. These are games that you'll probably play one time and then never want to play.
That game should go on a list of worst titles of all time.
What, 1-2 Switch?
I mean, come on. It's like, you get, like, what do you think of when you think of Switch? Like, switch off the lights? 1, 2, switch to a different system. That's what I think.
Hey, to be fair, a lot of the reviews did state that like 20 of the games are pretty good. They're actually pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's $50 game.
I don't think anybody's arguing that the value's there.
Yeah,
I think everybody is in complete agreement that $50 is too expensive.
Right.
If that game was $20 or $30, I think you would have seen better reviews. I think if the game was a pack-in, everybody would think it's great. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the case.
Watch this holiday season, we'll end up seeing it bundled in. 1, 2 Switch, Zelda, and the Switch.
It's going to be 3, 4 Switch.
Yeah.
The next one, right?
I'll just make sure. I'll just make sure if I see somebody wearing a 1, 2 Switch T-shirt, I beat the fuck out of them.
They should just change it to a decimal, like 0.50 Switch.
Pi Switch.
Yeah, pi. Yeah.
So as I was saying, so Nintendo launched obviously with a very small amount of games, Zelda being the headline one. That ended up being one of the highest reviewed games of all time, and also the President of America also went on to say that Zelda, by a large margin, was the best-selling launch title they've ever had in their company history as well.
Wait a minute, did you just say the President of America?
Of Nintendo of America. Sorry if I said the President of America.
Trump's getting on the debate.
Yeah. He gave up golfing in Mar-a-Lago every weekend.
Big Switch fan.
We know what he's been doing for the last 2 months.
And then you go on to look at the rest of Nintendo's first-party lineup that's on the way for the rest of the year. You've got ARMS coming out in May. You've got Mario Kart 8 coming out before that in April. You've got Splatoon 2 coming out in the summer. And then you've got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 coming out in the fall or holiday season. And you have Super Mario Odyssey, which is Nintendo's probably next big AAA title on the level of Zelda, coming out in the holiday season as well. So when you look at that first-party lineup throughout the year, it's hard to be pessimistic about it. And then Nintendo has also gone out of their way to really usher along independent developers. So they had their Nindy event, which is Nintendo Independent Event. It's their cute little Nintendo name that they have to give to everything.
It's so Japanese.
But that was a big success, and they announced dozens. I think it was 30 different games at this event, all independent developers. And I think it's just another good sign that they're doing something similar to what Sony did with the launch of the PS4. And as you guys know, the PS4 is selling astronomically well. It's the best-selling console since the PlayStation 2. So Sony did that with the PlayStation 4 over the first 1 to 2 years, as they really padded their first-party lineup with these small indie games that sold for 10 to 20 apiece, but they were critically acclaimed and they sold well, and they did a good job of rounding out some of the gaps in the early lineup. So just some quotes from some of these independent developers on Nintendo. The CEO of Image and Form Games, who created SteamWorld Dig and announced SteamWorld Dig 2 at the Nindy event, said that they were treated like royalty, and that they were treated not like an indie studio that could be pushed away, but they were treated just like a big budget AAA developer, and they really felt like they were important and respected by Nintendo. And then I could read all these, but you go down the list: Sumo Digital, Yacht Club Games, Zoink, Tiny Build, all went on to say very similar things, and that Nintendo is clearly prioritizing indie development. So they know what they're doing there, because I think they understand that the big boys, the Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, they're not going to be ready to jump in with big AAA third-party games until they see the Switch has some sales success. They're not going to be burnt again like they were with the Wii U. And I think Nintendo realized that, so they understand that for the first year or two, they really need to pad their first-party lineup with indie games, because they have much more quick development times. They sell for cheaper. You can get lots of titles in your ecosystem, and it can really help that lineup look a lot better.
Yeah. Speaking of getting the games out sooner, there's already 8 new games that have been released on the eShop, and they include Master Blaster 0. They include NAM's 1975, The King of Fighters 98, Waku Waku 7, Metal Slug 3, World Heroes Perfect, and Shock Troopers. So already in the first week, we're seeing these Nindies coming out for the system. So that's the padding begins essentially.
Yeah. And they've almost tripled their launch lineup for
those
titles.
Yeah,
they went from 5 to 13 now.
Essentially, so.
Yeah, so that's another good sign. And I really think that some prominent publications and podcasts around the nation have kind of started going with a phrase to describe this launch as being a soft launch. And pretty much that means that, yes, it's a full launch and, they're selling millions of consoles, but what they're really going for here, I think, is the hardcore gamers, the people who are willing to shell out $300 plus another $60 just so they can get their hands on Zelda, because that's really what the system is right now. And hardcore gamers who don't really care if it doesn't have a web browser right now, who don't really care if it doesn't have the streaming apps yet, who just want to play games. And I think that they know that there's enough Nintendo fans and there's enough hardcore gamers out there that they're going to be able to get very respectable sales day one that way. And I think what they're ramping up towards with these indies, with all those first-party games that I had mentioned, is that this holiday season, here's my prediction, we'll see if it comes true, that I think Nintendo will end up bundling the Switch with Legend of Zelda for keep the price at $299, and then they'll have that next big AAA game in Super Mario Odyssey out that holiday season too, and I think it'll be a big seller because many people know who Mario is, and many people know who Zelda is. That's very familiar to moms and dads and just random people out there. So they'll have those two really big titles on the docket to go along with the holiday season. I think that's the point when they're going to do that real full launch. And from there, I think they're hoping that momentum will push them forward into 2018 and beyond.
Yeah, generally, the Mario franchise is Nintendo's best-selling IP. So if the data that we're seeing with Legend of Zelda right now, that just hopefully speaks wonders for Super Mario Odyssey in the fall when the holiday season approaches. So far, videos that I've watched on Super Mario Odyssey look promising. So they have obviously a long way to go. It's the whole year basically, but I'm super excited to play that.
And I think if you look at the Switch versus the Wii U, it's very clear that Nintendo has definitely learned their lessons in so many different ways. From the name of the system itself, there's no confusion there. From selling the concept of the system, which I think most people still don't know what the best feature of the Wii U is, whereas the Switch is very clear.
If they can even remember the name.
Yeah, exactly. Whether or not it's an accessory for the Wii.
Right.
And then down to the actual games too. The Switch had several first-party titles, but they took some time to get them out. I think the first big title was Super Mario 3D World, and I think that was 6 to 8 months after the Switch or the
Wii U.
The Wii U came out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we said in the other recording that a lot of the games that came out for the Wii U were just remakes, like Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and what was the other
Twilight
one?
Princess.
Yeah, Twilight Princess.
Mario Paint.
Yeah, Mario Paint. Mario typing.
I would buy a system just for Mario Paint.
Yeah, I would. Yes, that'd be great. But yeah, and those two Legend of Zelda games were absolutely magical when they first came out on the GameCube, but they're really not system sellers because those people that are Legend of Zelda fans, most likely they owned a GameCube.
I wonder how many times we're going to use the word magical to describe games in the future.
Nintendo is magical.
It is, dude. It's pure magic.
And you're right. You go down the list with the Wii U, and yeah, they released a new Mario, but it was kind of a 2D side scroller mixed with a 3D world.
It's basically based on the Mario that came out for 3DS or 3. Yeah,
right. And then they had a new Donkey Kong, but it was a 2D side-scroller. They had a full Pikmin game, but not a lot of people really care about Pikmin. They had a full Super Smash Brothers, which has a following, but it doesn't have the appeal of any of those bigger games. I think the only exception was Mario Kart 8, which was a huge title, which was probably the best-selling title, I believe, for the Wii U, and it also sold a ton of consoles. So with the Switch, now you're seeing these full big name games. They're not spin-offs, they're not remasters, they're full new titles. Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2. So yeah, it's looking really good. And I think all those titles for the Switch will be system sellers, the way some of these titles on Wii U maybe weren't.
Do you have a battery life between the Switch and the Wii U? I mean, because weren't they one? They're both handheld.
Well, right? For the Wii U, the tablet essentially just produced whatever was shown on the TV. So the battery life was like, it was probably 1.5 to 2.5 hours.
And the Switch is
Switch is about 3 to 6, depending on the intensity of the game.
But the simple matter of the fact is, on the gamepad for the Wii U, there was really no electronic internals that were rendering the game.
There was essentially like a proprietary wireless chip,
yes,
and then the screen. And
yeah,
that's really about
so
it.
that just speaks volumes for the Switch.
Do you still have that case with you that you had up here?
Yeah, the Switch case.
That's not. That's like the whole system itself. So
yeah. So this is the whole. The whole console is all built right into the mobile device.
I just love how
sleek.
I mean, how easy that is to carry. Yeah. I mean, it's like basically like a giant purse. But
I do want to say, full disclaimer, I know we're talking about the games that came out for the Wii U. As a Nintendo fan, I'm maybe a little bit biased, but those games were totally worth buying. Those games were, to me, in my eyes, they were system sellers. But on a Mad Bros appeal, yeah, not so much. But I think the Wii U was very, very underrated as a system. So
yeah, I think of the Wii U as being Nintendo's version of the Dreamcast.
Yes,
where it sold poorly. It wasn't around for a long time, but it shot out 5 to 10 of some of the greatest games ever made. Some really great games on that system.
And I think that's why we're seeing these games that came out for the Wii U being re-released on the Switch, because people didn't get a chance to play them because of confusion, or they didn't know the Wii U existed or whatever. But games like Splatoon 2 and the Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Kart, or not Super Mario Kart 8, people, if the Switch goes on to sell as well as it is, people will actually get a chance to play the games that they should have played a few years ago. So that makes me, as a video gamer, that makes me very, very happy that people will get the feeling that I get when I play those games.
And you're right. I think Wii U remasters on the Switch are way more acceptable than Wii remasters on the Wii U, because the vast majority of people who will end up owning a Switch, at least in theory, will have never played any of these games anyway, so they'll be fresh experiences. I'm included. I never got to play, other than the time that you brought your Wii over to play, I never got to play Mario Kart 8 in any huge way. So I am so excited.
What's really great about that is Mario Kart 8 for the Switch is going to include all the DLC content that you had to buy separately on the Wii U. So you're getting, I think the game's probably going to be $60 for the Switch, but you're getting like $80, $90 worth of content for $60.
Plus an all-new battle mode with several new tracks included there. And then the graphics are better. They're native 1080p, where I think the Switch or the Wii U was 720p. So a lot of benefits.
Yeah, you're getting a 10 out of 10 game on the Wii U that adds all this content on the Switch. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the top 3 game of the year.
And the benefits continue with the Switch so far. A lot of good news. A YouTuber named Jerry Rig Everything, he's got close to 1 million views on YouTube. He kind of stress tests and does durability tests of all kinds of different pieces of hardware and gaming machines and stuff. Well, he put the Wii U through its paces, and he does a scratch test where he takes a pen and he uses different amounts of pressure across the screen to see when it starts scratching. And he does a bend test where he, with the Joy-Cons attached, he bends it with all of his might to see if he can break the Joy-Cons off, and then he takes the Joy-Cons off and he tries bending the screen itself to see if it'll snap, and then he takes a lighter to it and sees how it reacts to a flame test. He takes a utility knife to the back of it and to the buttons and to the joysticks, and he really does everything you could imagine.
I could never watch that video.
It's really
it sounds horrible.
To watch. It hurts. It really does. But long story short, the Switch really did admirably well. The Joy-Cons never snapped off at all. The screen never bent to the point of breaking. The console continued to work throughout all these tests. It never had any issues shutting off or anything like that. The only thing that he did discover is that the Switch screen is actually not glass. It's glass underneath, but there's a coating of polymer on top of it. He theorized that the reason they did that is for when you drop the system or when you do a bend test like he did, it prevents the screen from shattering, so it just makes it a little bit more crack-proof that way. But what it does do is, since it's essentially plastic, is it's not as good at being scratch-resistant. So he does various pressures from 1 to 9 with his pen scratching on it, and it only got to 3 before it started scratching, which is definitely below average. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I guess I can understand why they would do it. I would suggest getting a tempered glass screen protector. That's what I have on my Switch. I got it for $10 from Amazon. It went on relatively easy, and now I don't have to worry about ever scratching the screen.
I feel like I'd have to like hold you back while you're watching that video. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't do well. Well, the thing is, I don't do well with blood to begin with, so I feel like I would probably pass out if I tried to watch that video.
You probably like tackle the TV. What are you doing?
Well,
Yeah.
if you'd pass out from that, I got to say, there's another YouTube channel called the Water Jet channel, and they took essentially a really high-pressured water jet, and they pretty much using pressure shot a Triforce through the whole system, like gigantic holes through the actual
The Triforce that's from Legend of Zelda.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, the three triangles, yep. And so they put gigantic holes right through it. But the funny thing is, the first triangle that he did shot all the way through the system, so there's a gigantic hole in the system and the screen, but it still worked completely fine. So he was still playing Legend of Zelda. There's just a giant hole in the middle of the screen.
Hear that? Hear that?
You just can't see Link.
They're testing the Switch with astral weapons, people. It's a very good system. Astral weapons.
They're going to put that right on the box. Tested with Astro weapons.
Yeah, the Nintendo should do that. Contact the marketing department. Oh,
So-
too good.
I don't want to just only pour praise for Nintendo here, because there were some negatives that came out. The first one being that lots of consumers have complained that the left Joy-Con is losing connectivity at times. I looked into it a little bit further, and some testing was discovered that somebody opened up a Joy-Con and found the Bluetooth receiver in it, and they were able to actually move the receiver to a better part of the Joy-Con, and it actually improved reception a ton, and he didn't have any more connectivity issues. It's a good thing that he was able to fix it, but it is a little bit scary in that it doesn't seem like Nintendo will be able to fix it with a firmware update. So this might just be an issue until they release a revised version of the left Joy-Con. So that would be a big disappointment. I will say I haven't had any issues with it yet, but I haven't done a ton of testing myself.
Yeah, I did 30 minutes of testing playing a Fast RMX, just having the Switch set up on a table, using the kickstand, and just playing with the Joy-Cons individually, and just to try to figure out if I could replicate that issue. And I didn't have an issue, but granted, I wasn't playing very far from the screen, and my hands are really like Donald Trump-sized hands to begin with, so I don't.
Which means they're massive.
Yeah, they're
According to
massive.
Donald
Yeah,
Trump.
as well as other parts. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I didn't have any connectivity issues. But looking at Nintendo's response to these complaints from consumers is a little disheartening. We made the joke that Nintendo said you shouldn't be playing next to a microwave.
Which they did actually say. It's not even...
Yeah, that's legitimate. Yeah, like that was included within the list.
I thought like some of the bad things you're going to tell us was like these Switch systems are going to be made by like thousands of kids named Link in Japan or something. slave labor, Link slave labor.
Never.
So unfortunately, I can't play my Switch in my room full of microwaves.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so make your Hot Pocket before you start playing Legend of Zelda. That way you will not have an interrupted experience.
Don't make your Hot Pocket inside the microwave.
Yeah. But Nintendo is notorious for not really admitting mistakes, so I think what we will see is, well, we saw this response, obviously, but going forward, they'll probably just do some internal testing if it's not already been done, and they'll just probably
release a revised version silently.
Yeah. Some reviewer, iFixit or whatever, will discover this probably within a year that the Joy-Con's been magically fixed.
Yeah.
Without anybody finding out.
So it's unfortunate.
I feel like the response is like, fix it yourself, God damn it, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that isn't a response. I would really hope that they'd reach out to people who are having issues and offer them free replacements, or at least if somebody did reach out to them, they would offer them a free replacement.
Yeah, how about the free DLC for Legend of Zelda Nintendo?
Yeah.
Or maybe a free microwave.
Yeah, a free microwave. Yeah, give me a microwave that doesn't use microwaves.
Delivered personally by Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah. I want a Legend of Zelda themed microwave. That would be fantastic.
So the only other negative that came out as well is that people are also complaining about issues where when they dock the Switch or undock it, some people are seeing some hairline scratches on the screen just from docking and undocking it. These are hard to substantiate, but there is photographic proof out there that people have scratches on their Switch. So how it happened, it's hard to say, but once again, I think that's where a tempered glass screen protector would come in handy anyway. I'd always recommend it on almost any mobile device that has a screen because it protects the screen anyway, and they're cheap. But with that said, if this is the case, it definitely is unacceptable if the dock that Nintendo made for the Switch is scratching the screen. So hopefully that isn't the case.
Well, yeah, you look inside the dock, and yeah, it's just hard plastic. So the plastic could just make contact with the screen and cause those scratches. I will say this, the dock, it doesn't tell you which way to put the Switch in. I mean, you can assume that the screen would face you, but maybe Nintendo should have made like a handy-dandy icon on the dock that just said, hey, make sure it's pointing this way.
I wonder if it can fit in either way.
I did try it the opposite way. Just because I'm a part of a podcast now and I got to try these things so I can talk. But yeah, it does not fit that way.
Oh, okay.
So
I wondered because
that's what she said. But yeah, no, sorry.
The USB-C connector that it uses is universal.
Well, right.
That's why I was wondering.
Right, but I think, well, it also, the dock also charges the Switch, so I'm guessing that is
something
not universal, yeah. Well, I shouldn't say that. Like there's like some prongs that stick out. I don't know the technical terms, but that looks like maybe it's one way. But yeah, Nintendo, if you're listening to this, Gen 2 of the Switch.
Switch Pro.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Switch XL.
So yeah, the new and improved. Yeah,
like 14-inch screen.
That'd be great. I'll buy it. I don't care. But yeah, moving on. Nintendo Switch has finally addressed the streaming services caveat that everybody's been kind of wondering about. In an interview with the Washington Post, Reggie made a comment.
Reggie being the president of Nintendo of America.
Yes.
Not just some guy named Reggie.
Yeah, yeah, the president. I'm sorry, I should clarify
Reggie
that.
Fils-Aimé.
Yeah, Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Not Reggie Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Anyways, so yeah, he had an interview with Washington Post, and basically they did ask him if we would see these streaming services come out, like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon, and he confirmed that although Nintendo wants to focus the Switch as primarily a gaming console, that we will see these streaming services come, so just hold the hell on, and yeah.
And I think that really lends to the whole soft launch theory that I spoke about, and the full launch being this holiday season, because again, the hardcore gamers that buy it day one probably care less whether or not it has streaming apps, but come holiday season, I think parents will find that very appealing if they can have one device that you can browse the internet on, you can check your Facebook, you can use your streaming apps, and you can play games on. That'll have a huge appeal to the average consumer. So again, I think that's what they're aiming for. Yeah,
Reggie, the president of Nintendo, did not give an exact time frame. He said things that will come in time when referring to Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. So I would hope that we would see it in time for the holiday season to help really bolster the value of the Switch.
Then he told the reporters to get out because his plan's out.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I need to be my first Guardian. Get out of here.
So speaking of Zelda, I think we'll move forward away from our Switch talk, even though we could probably talk all day about it.
Yeah, poor Josh is over here like, God darn it.
But I read a really endearing and hilarious story of Shigeru Miyamoto. Nick talked about him a lot last week. He created Mario, he created Zelda, as well as several other games. If you're into gaming, he's essentially a superstar in the gaming world. But he was not directly involved with the development of Breath of the Wild. He was more a supervisor type role. But the Breath of the Wild director, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Hidemaru Fujibayashi, talked about his experience the first time that they showed Miyamoto the game. So they pretty much gave Miyamoto a controller and said, you can do everything. Like, this game is open. If you want to go to that mountain, you can go there. If you want to kill these enemies, you can do that. So they also put rupees at the top of every tree, which didn't make the final game, but at one point, every time you climb to the top of a tree, you get a rupee. So right in the beginning of the game, you're surrounded by a forest. So what Miyamoto did for literally, they said hours, is he would go up to a tree, climb all the way to the top, get a rupee, climb all the way back down, move on to the next tree, climb all the way to the top, get a rupee, went back down. They said he literally spent hours doing this. They came up to him and they're like, you can explore, you can fight. There's a cool like mountain over there. There's a volcano back there, and he just continued to just keep climbing the trees. That was his entire play session for his first session of Legend of Zelda.
That is great.
So that makes me love him that much more.
Yeah. I didn't know that was consideration in the game that they're going to have the rupees.
Yeah, at one point there was rupees on the top of every tree.
And maybe for our less educated Zelda enthusiasts, the rupee is essentially currency in the game where you can use it to buy.
Oh, because I thought it was like a date rape drug or something.
Yeah, rupee, not roofie. Yeah, rupee as I think that's the Indian currency, whatever. But anyways, but yeah, I'm glad that didn't make the final cut because I could see
That'd be a
myself.
distraction.
Yeah. Well, I find myself spending a lot of time just climbing up trees to see if I can find bird eggs. That's like 3/4 of my time.
Or what are the little leaf guys?
Yeah, the little
Koku.
yeah, Dooku tree.
Yeah, because you
people.
could find those leaf guys at the top.
Yeah.
Of
So
the
you guys aren't like climbing trees looking for rupees.
Yeah.
Only in real life.
Yeah.
Only on weekends.
Yeah, I've collected like 500.
They need to
so
change
far,
the way
yeah.
they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of interesting too. That's a big distinguish factor between Breath of the Wild and previous Zelda games, where you could go into the grass in the old Zelda games, or you could pick up a pot and you could throw it, or cut the grass, and you would find rupees. Well, not so much in this game. Like it's much more spread out. You really have to search.
Strangely enough, guys spend more time looking for rupees than girls.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a girlfriend. 'Cause I spend all my time looking for rupees.
All about them rupees.
Yeah, yeah. Shigeru Miyamoto, he is great. He's got so much charm. Like when he's out, basically being the mascot for Nintendo, you can tell he absolutely loves being there, and just loves video games so much. And I think he just loves seeing where his IPs that he created so many years ago are going. So it's really, really great to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do want to talk a little bit about week 2 of our experience with Legend of Zelda. I am now probably around 20 hours in, so I've gotten a large chunk of the game completed, and I must say it's definitely on pace. If it can keep this level of quality, as probably being my favorite game ever made, which is pretty crazy to say, but it just continues. Every piece of the game is lovingly crafted, and there's no stone that you unturn. There's no path that you walk that you can tell it hasn't been created with love and attention to detail, and the whole world has a really enveloping and adventurous and beautiful feel to it. And it's pure fun and it's pure adventure, and it's one of the rare games that when I play it, I feel lost in it the same way I used to feel lost in games when I was a kid. I was just talking to Nick before this episode that the best and worst part about the Switch is that it is mobile. So I've been bringing up the Switch to bed with me before bed, to get 15 minutes in, and suddenly that 15 minutes turns into 2 hours. And I'm not going to bed until way later than I wanted to. But the game pulls you in, and you get lost in the world. And
You've been like tying it around your significant other's face.
Going for the kiss, like, oh wait,
No, but going back
to
to what you're saying, I think we should do a future podcast on that, like games that were like, because we always use that terminology, made with love and care. Because a lot of games are like that, but we should do a podcast on games that were made with hate and spite. Like they made this game just because they hate all the people that are going to be playing.
Hey, there's games out there. Postal, that's a good example. There's some hateful games out there.
Yeah, I would just like to repeat your sentiment for the game is I'm going to use this term that Josh really doesn't really like, but it is a magical experience. Like you wherever you go within the game, you have this sense that it's there on purpose, and nothing is out of place because by accident. Like so much love was poured into every single part of the game. Like you go anywhere on the map and you just literally you could just stand there and just enjoy the surroundings, and you just want to sit and experience it. It's bizarre. I've never played a game like that before. The closest I've been is Ocarina of Time, where you have that sense of wanting to belong to that universe, and where it really sucks you in, and you think you've been playing for 30 minutes, but then it's the next day all of a sudden.
You know, and don't get me wrong. I think that is special. I mean, I can't say I've had that experience in Zelda like you guys, but I've had that experience with games like, you know, for example, Mass Effect, the first Mass Effect. You know, like every time you play it, it's like something different, and it makes you feel like you're playing a whole new story itself. So I can understand the feeling that you guys are having. Like, you know, you do something you never thought it would happen that way, or it just seems totally new or unique to watch how you're playing the game because it's your experience. So I can understand the total feeling you have.
Yeah, that's what sets the good games from the great, is where the ones that really help you become absorbed into the story, where you really feel for that character. It's the same concept for books and movies, but it's something that's really hard to do with video games, and Nintendo has done a fantastic job. And you mentioned Mass Effect, like those caliber games, it can be done, and Nintendo's done it again with the Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and I guess I know that a lot of our listeners aren't necessarily gamers or that big of gamers, but I will use this as kind of a jumping point. I'm promoting games. I think you had mentioned movies and books, but I think games are uniquely the only form of entertainment or only medium where you really can enter a different world when you play a game. And you can really get lost in it in a way that I don't think you can in a movie. I think maybe you can a little bit in a book, but in a book you're still reading somebody else's story. In a game, you're making your own story. And I think that, that's one of the biggest reasons I love games. It's one of the biggest reasons I'm a gamer, is that because it's unique and specific to that form of entertainment, and that you can really just lose yourself into a character.
You're directing the path. It's your choice. You know, like whenever I play a game, I always like to put my own personal storyline to it. Like, for example, when I play Fallout, I always like to have my own personal touch to it. So it's like, I mean, I don't think a book could do that. Like you said before, it's like you're reading a story, but it's taking you down a certain path. So when you play a game, you can take as many different paths as you want.
It depends on the game, of course. I mean, some games are very linear, but in the sense of Breath of the Wild, where you have the whole expanse of Hyrule. I'm just using this as an example. I mean, yeah, you, like, to use Josh's words, you can just create your own path. Like, gee, I'm gonna get started out. I'm gonna go look for the Master Sword. Maybe I'll find it. You know, and along that way, I'm gonna create a story that's unique to me. I'm gonna create an adventure that's unique to me. So. And then you could apply that to, I'm going to go to Hyrule Castle. That's what I'm going to do. And it could be completely different from somebody else's experience, and that's what's just so great about the game.
And to further that, even to go on another level, beyond just choosing whether or not you want to go get a sword or go to the castle, the world is a living, breathing world full of very advanced physics and very advanced weather patterns and very advanced AI. So beyond just my story being different than yours because you had a different sword than me, you could say, I went to this camp and the way these guys fought me, or some hilarity that ensued because a rock rolled down a hill and hit a guy, or somebody fell off or used a funny weapon, like the possibilities are endless, and there's all kinds of different opportunities for hilarity, and then also just awe-inspiring moments where again, it's the whole sense of being lost in the game, because the AI continues to surprise me time after time.
Oh, yes. The AI is difficult. It's surprisingly difficult.
Let me ask you guys a tough question here. Any major glitches you've seen in the game?
I will say two glitches. One, Nintendo is actually accounted for. I found out after. So I got a horse, trained the horse, whatever. Well, I got the horse kind of stuck on like a little bit of a rocky ledge where technically Link would probably have to climb to be able to navigate it. So I kind of got my horse stuck there. I'm like, oh no. Eventually I got my horse off of that ledge, but a few minutes on, when I was going through a loading screen, you can actually press ZL on the controller when you're on your horse, and you can strafe left or right. And Nintendo says within the loading screen, like, this will help you get basically unstuck if you're in a situation, where you're on your horse. It's actually hilarious animation when you're on the horse. Like, he jumps really funny. Like, I find myself doing that. Like,
strafe with the horse.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But Nintendo thought of that. Like, when they understand, like, a lot of Link's actions in the game are to climb, and a lot of times you're going to be on a horse and you might get stuck. So they did think about that. But the other issue that I have with the game is the frame rate.
Yes.
That sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, you definitely have the frame rate dropping to 20 or lower.
Yeah.
Rarely, but there's entire sections of the game where it does drop,
Yeah.
particularly if there's a lot of trees and shadows, and then if it starts to
Grass.
rain.
Yeah. Yep.
With grass, yeah, then it's tough. It is very choppy.
Yeah, but that's it doesn't deter away from the gameplay at all. It doesn't.
I don't think it ever does for me. I mean, I've seen a lot of glitches in games, and most of the time I end up just laughing at them.
Yeah, usually they're fun.
Right.
To be honest, beyond the frame rate issues, though, I personally haven't had a single glitch, which is actually surprising just saying it right now, because open world games, as we all know, are just usually full of glitches.
So I've been playing I'm not playing Zelda, but I've been playing For Honor, and I've been noticing I made like a glitch in the game. You can like knock people off cliffs, and that's how you can win a match. And it's a glitch. Is what happens is when you knock them off the cliff, the character keeps falling from the sky down over and over again. I just thought I'd bring that up.
That's great. Yeah, it's surprising for how much depth has gone into Zelda, how expansive Hyrule is, and the physics that are involved, and what. Yeah, all those variables that go into it. Yeah, there's I haven't had a single glitch with that. And it's mind-boggling that, from a programming perspective, that they pulled that off without a hitch.
Yeah, and really speaking of that, and speaking of the magic we feel when we play these games, obviously that magic doesn't just come out of thin air. That comes out of tens of thousands of man hours put into this game by hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals to really make a polished and amazing experience. And that's this is something I want to talk about this week. It's my segment of the week. I titled it "The Woeful State of the Video Game Industry." And really, I want to put some time in to talk about those who have careers in the video game industry and the challenges that they face. Millions of people across the world enjoy video games, but I don't think many people stop and think about the work that's put forth to put their favorite game in their hands. So this has been an issue really for several decades in the video game industry now, and I'm going to be honest, the game industry is in a really bad state right now for anybody employed with the industry. I would imagine that there's very few people associated with the industry right now that would tell you that gaming industry is healthy at this point. So Amy Hennig, who was a major part of the development process for the Uncharted games, and she also wrote the stories. And she's actually still working in the game industry. She works for Electronic Arts now, working on the new Star Wars game. But she said that every single game has crunch, what she calls crunch. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but essentially the last 3 to 6 months of development, they go into what they call crunch mode, which pretty much means 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day, bare minimum. No days off. Just working from really the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed until the game is released. And this is not an exception to the rule. This is the norm. And so she came out in an interview and really revealed what it's like to work in the game industry. And she was quick to point out that it wasn't just with Naughty Dog and the developers of Uncharted, but that it's across the industry. And if you aren't willing to put in that type of time, you aren't going to work in the game industry. And she went on to say that she knows several people she's close to that never go home and see their families, that have children grow up without ever even getting to know them. People who have health issues, people who have to go to psychiatric facilities after the game is done being developed because they're so overstressed and so tired and so overworked. People who go through divorces. And this is all just to make a piece of entertainment that ends up in our hands. So there's a lot of issues right now. According to a new study from the International Game Developers Association, 38% of game developers worked unpaid overtime during the crunch period. That's insane. I mean, that's hours that you should be getting paid to do. And when you match that percentage with the idea of how long crunch time is and how common it is, it just shows you how many employees are working for really nothing other than to be a game developer and really sacrificing their personal lives to a great extent to be able to do so. I just think that it's important to bring this to light because I also know that, especially probably people listening to this podcast, there may be people who are looking to get into the game industry or think they want to be a developer. And I think that, that's something you're going to want to think long and hard about and understand what you might have to give up. And understand that it's not always a whole lot of fun either. There's a Ubisoft employee that actually ended up leaving Ubisoft and started his own independent game company. But he spoke of game development and said you're not building worlds. You're not the guy who's making the story for Grand Theft Auto. What you're doing is you're practically working on an assembly line. You're the guy who makes the brick texture for building 72 on this street, and you do that for a month. And then you're just told randomly, like, now we just need to make a texture that's, road textures, and this is your job for the next several months, 12 hours a day, just doing this with no context, with no why. You're just working on something random that really doesn't necessarily mean anything to you. And this ex-Ubisoft employee said specifically, he says, no matter what your job is, you don't have a significant contribution on the game. You're a drop in a glass of water, and as soon as you realize it, your ownership will evaporate, and without ownership, you have no motivation. So he said he went from being as excited and enthusiastic about working in the game industry as you could imagine to being burnt out in the matter of 2 years. So with that said, I will also say kudos to those who work in the game industry and continue to work, because they are putting in hours and hours and hours and hours and hours for the entertainment of others. And while they are paid well, they tend to be paid over $100,000 a year. I personally wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to work 100 hours a week to get paid that type of money and have no personal life outside of it. The game industry also uses, especially AAA games, they use what's called a 24-hour rotating schedule. So most AAA studios now have multiple facilities throughout the world. So when you're looking at development for a AAA game, it is a 24/7 development cycle. So in one part of the world, when somebody ends their shift, another part of the world, somebody picks up that shift and continues working on that part of the game, and it never ends for the entire development until the game's completed. And as we talked about a little bit last week, when a game goes gold, which means the game is technically complete and they're starting to press it to discs and get it shipped out to stores, there is that final 4 to 6 week crunch period where the hours go completely insane, where you're talking 16-hour days, 7 days a week, where they're trying to complete that last day one patch. That's why you see a lot of these 20 gig day one patches that will fix all the glitches, that will bring the graphics up to snuff, bring performance up to snuff, all that type of stuff. So, again, it just sounds like complete hell to me. Going on the list, the game industry also uses what they call disposable workers, which I find to be completely disgusting in that they'll hire people on temporary roles for 3 to 6 months, and they will be specifically bug testing one specific bug, or they'll be applying textures to a certain environment. And they tend to be, once again, severely overworked, severely underpaid, and are 90% of the time left to the wayside after this job. And of course, during this time, they have no health benefits. They have no benefits to speak of at all. And it's really a mess. And when you start to ask the question, well, how can we fix this problem? That's a tough answer. And it's because there's so many young people today that still want to be game developers. So again, I think the culture right now is if you're not happy with it, we'll leave. We'll find somebody to replace you with, because there's plenty of people out there that are seeking game development jobs. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on it. I've got more to say, but
I guess as you've been talking about this, a lot of this is news to me. I knew there have been issues in the industry for decades, and it's so hard. It's so difficult to think about, because you really want to play that brand new AAA game, and you sometimes you fail to recognize the grueling hours and the hard work that went to bring that to fruition. But I think people who want to get into that industry, I don't want to say like, hey, just start your own game development studio. I think maybe that's one reason we're seeing a lot of these game developers go on their own, because they can create their own environments to work in, and because that's a serious. When you love games so much, that's a serious hindrance on your love for games. When you have these big developers you're working for that that really just take you for granted, and you're just a drop in the bucket to them.
You said they make over like 100,000.
Sure.
Like when it comes to pay and stuff like that. I think that's actually kind of small compared to like if you look at some of these titles and how well they sell.
Yes.
Multi-million dollars. And I think it's interesting that like, for example, like a company that makes extremely a lot of money off of these people's work doesn't take extra time to make sure that their employees are happy. I think that's an overall symptom of a service industry society. I don't think people in work today get treated like they should in a lot of other jobs. I mean, we're focusing just on the gaming side, but I think that's a sad thing to hear, because they can afford to take care of these employees, but they just choose not to because, again, like you said, they're a bucket in the water.
Right,
and they can just find somebody.
It's tough work too, because you're sitting at a computer for 12, 16 hours a day.
Staring at a screen.
Staring at code, and that's...
Your brain just has to be mush.
Right, that's got to be...
No, I'm sorry.
It takes a lot of resilience to put up with those kind of work hours.
Is there like a union type like thing for employees in the game industry? Because I know that the movie industry has something very similar.
Well, there's several things I want to touch on. First of all, Nick, I completely agree, and I think you're right. I think this is a large reason why the indie movement is starting to take off. Simultaneously because consumer interest has raised a lot in indie games, but also because developers can make their own hours. They can have a small team of 6 people who are passionate about a game, and not only can they work more reasonable hours, but they actually feel like they're all contributing something meaningful to the game rather than just the guy doing road textures the whole time.
You said context. I mean, a lot of these guys are working on it's assembly line. They have no idea what they're creating. Well, you have these independent developers. They can put more emotion into the development cycle because they actually have a stake.
Yeah,
a
they care about
stake.
what they're making.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say that voice actors are several voice actors in the game industry are part of a union. That union is called SAG-AFTRA. And actually, this is a little bit of a silver lining. That union is actually currently boycotting the industry.
Oh, wow.
And there's several very big name voice actors that are not working in the industry. This boycott has started in October of 2016, and it's still going on now. So just to touch on it a little bit, first of all, voice actors and game developers, anything I say for voice actors doubles for game developers, because game developers don't have a union. So they have nobody speaking for them. But with that said, voice actors receive no royalties if a game is successful. And beyond that, they don't even know what game they're working on. Right now, the culture of the industry is that when a voice actor is hired, the developers, in fear that a new title could be leaked, don't even share with these voice actors what game they're working on. So it could be a $100 million huge budget new Uncharted game, or it could be a little side, $10 million title that EA throws to the Xbox Live Marketplace. They have no clue. And what that does is it eliminates any context as far as like, what are they bargaining for a wage here? Like, what type of work is involved? How many hours is reasonable? And then once again, if they're working on a game that's going to make a ton of money, should they be negotiating royalties, things like that?
So that makes me think of like the girl from the Game of Thrones. What's her name? Queen Marjorie. Because she's obviously doing the voice acting for the upcoming Mass Effect game. So you think that she didn't know that she was doing the voice acting for that game?
And again, this is the norm. There's no law involved.
Yeah.
So you would think probably with A-list celebrities, big names, I'm sure they get special treatment.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the guys we haven't heard of otherwise. A lot of people who are doing grunts for an orc or something in a game.
Right.
And speaking of that, like, video games uniquely create a ton of vocal stress compared to movies or other forms, because a lot of times they'll literally just be doing battle cries or screams of pain or simulating painful deaths and shrieks and creature noises and stuff. And apparently they do these for hours on end with no time between sessions, and they've actually gone through physical vocal cord surgeries at times that are required because the pain's so bad and the vocal cords have been so burnt out. And publishers offer no help with that. They don't offer any vocal cord training. They don't offer any vocal cord therapy. They don't offer any help with actual surgery if it's required. So that's these are all issues that currently exist in the voice acting world that is the reason for the boycott, and they actually have this is part of the reason they're boycotting, and they're listing like changes that need to happen. So that's another change.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. That's crazy.
And they're also fighting for royalties because, again, I mean, if they're doing a big character in a game that goes on to sell huge, they deserve to make back-end money off of that.
I agree. I just think that's sad. I mean, with an industry that's doing so well. That's just sad to me.
And the craziest part to me is these voice actors tend to only make $150 to $500 per session, and a session is 6 to 8 hours. It's pennies to these companies, and so it's definitely a mess right now. And I would just say to anybody that's looking into wanting to work in the game industry to really think about it, because I thought at one time that I thought I might want to as well, and it's not something I would ever want to do. And frankly, you feel bad for a lot of the staffs of these games, because I follow games closely, and a lot of the hardcore game fans, when a game comes out and it's more glitchy than they want, or the performance isn't there, or it has issues, there's this narrative, it's almost a meme nowadays, of lazy developers. Saying like, oh, just lazy developers again, they didn't want to get it done. And it's like, that could not be further from the truth. These people work harder than anybody else in the entire industry.
You know, my brother almost got a job. He went to school to do gaming design, and he almost got a job in the industry. And it makes me and he didn't end up getting. He was interviewed by Activision, and he went up to work for Foot Locker, and he spends a lot of time doing the graphics for them. So it makes me wonder how long somebody like building a video game spends in an office.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today and just inform our listeners. So
yeah, it's really important to shine light on this issue.
So we're going to move on to positivity again.
Yes.
We're kind of done talking about games, but we're going to talk a little bit about movies. I've got some movie news for you guys. I was excited to see, after our talks about diversity in film and a lot of the whitewashing that goes on in Hollywood as far as recasting roles, I was very happy to see that. I don't know if you're aware, first of all, Disney is working on releasing a live action remake of Aladdin.
Yes.
Which I think is very exciting. Immediate question comes to mind is, who are they going to cast as Genie? Because you cannot top Robin Williams. Who could even do it? Jim Carrey, maybe?
Maybe Jim Carrey. I don't know. I think you just animate Robin Williams.
Well, the voice is the most important.
No way, Jim Carrey. That's too ridiculous.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, who do you think? Denzel Washington?
Actually, no, I think would be a good Genie. He's not Will Ferrell. Who's the other guy from Step Brothers?
John C. Reilly.
I think
he could be pretty decent.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I think what they really need to do is probably go a completely different route with Genie versus what Robin Williams did, because it was unique to Robin Williams. So they need to find a different niche to hit with that. So, but with that said, when talking about diversity, I was very pleased to see that they are casting the film now, and their official casting call is that they are looking for Middle Eastern leads. So they're not going to have a couple white dudes. And
I want Tom Hardy to be Aladdin. I'm sorry.
So Tom Cruise is going to be Jafar.
Tom Cruise.
I want Tom Cruise to be Jafar.
I'm not interested in this movie at all until I hear. I want the white actors that
white actors have to be the animals.
Yeah.
So searching for Aladdin and Jasmine, their only requirements are these characters have to be Middle Eastern, they should be between 18 and 25 years old, must be able to sing, and must be able to dance.
I know the perfect Aladdin, the kid that was in Slumdog
That's
Millionaire.
what I was thinking, too.
Yes.
And he was just up for an Oscar,
yes.
actually, too.
He was
really
in Life of Pi.
Yes.
He is a phenomenal actor. I don't know, I'm really kicking myself because I don't know his name, but yeah, he's my first choice.
What do you mean, they have to be able to dance? What is it?
He can dance. That's like, you ever watch Bollywood movies? Like, they dance and sing at the end of every Bollywood movie.
How much dancing was it in Aladdin, the first one?
A lot of dancing.
There was.
It's like, have you ever... Our friendship just went down one notch, all right? Yeah, Aladdin's like the best movie
Aladdin
ever.
is like full of dancing. There's probably a dozen different dances.
Yeah, and singing. And
do you think somebody's just going to call him out? Oh, that guy sucks at dancing. Get him out of there.
Did you find his name? Do you know? Oh, yeah.
See.
Gotta give credit where credit is due. But yeah, he would be a perfect choice. As far as
they should bring in Vin Diesel to play the carpet. Vin Diesel to play the carpet. Since he's so good at roles where he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was Dev Patel.
Okay.
Dev Patel.
All right, yeah.
Great actor,
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so I do look forward to it. Hopefully it's good. Obviously this is kind of Nintendo's new thing. They already did The Jungle Book. They already did Cinderella. Now they're doing Beauty and the Beast. So Aladdin's coming up. I would imagine Little Mermaid. I know that they've already announced they're going to do Mulan, a live-action remake.
Ooh.
Yeah, so then again, you look at Mulan, I hope they cast Asian actors, but judging from this, they probably will. So it's a good sign. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
I didn't like Mulan.
What? Mulan is great. Man, who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
What is wrong with you?
This podcast is going to be
Too many.
This is probably going to be our final episode.
Yeah,
I'm a history buff. I kind of like some movies like that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I mean, I even enjoy
Understandable.
Pocahontas, and I understand that it's not historically accurate at all, but still a good story. So,
Right.
just
That's
saying.
It's all
All
about
right,
love.
I'll give that.
Love, right?
So, in other movie news, the 5th Indiana Jones movie starring Harrison Ford has officially been set for July 19th, 2019.
He's still alive?
Damn it! I thought he was gonna say. I thought he was gonna say Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I gotta look how old Harrison Ford is gonna be in 20.
He's like, I thought he died in a plane accident or something. Like, no, I'm just kidding. No.
So he's
I thought he died in Star Wars.
Yeah, he got pushed off a
yeah, dude.
ledge.
Harrison Ford is gonna be 77 years
Holy
old
balls.
in 2019.
Oh,
So that dude's like running around, whipping his whip, and like running from boulders and shit. So it's gonna be exciting.
I bet he wishes he was Clint Eastwood right now. Because Clint Eastwood has a son that looks just like
Say,
him.
who in the right mind would wish they're Clint Eastwood?
yeah,
now?
right?
Well, I just mean for like
I'm just going to talk to
sequels.
random chairs. Yeah.
He's talking to invisible people all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steven Spielberg has been confirmed to return to direct. George Lucas has been confirmed to have no involvement.
So you know it's going to be good.
I mean, I would certainly hope so. And then again, it's being headed up by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, who produced the Star Wars films.
So there's no information on the premise of the movie?
There's no information on the premise.
Okay.
I think it's fair to assume that either this will have some real closure to the series and this be the end, or it's going to set up for a follow-up with a younger actor.
So what is being like Harrison Ford in a nursing home or what? No, I wanted
The big twist on the end is he actually has dementia. It was all in his head the whole time.
I like how like the big news we have to announce when it comes to like George Lucas is that he has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's big. That's big news.
Good news, George Lucas isn't involved.
I read a joke that they're going to go like the Logan route, and the title is just going to be Indie in all caps and be rated R and like really violent and really dark.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I like the old age home idea, but he's got like there's like some relic in the kitchen. He's got to somehow get to it. He's in his
It's like
wheelchair.
30 feet away.
Yeah,
He's like,
He ends up getting eaten by a snake.
He's trying to escape the old age home, and he keeps getting captured and brought back.
honestly, though, I look forward to it. I didn't like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah, the
but it was still
aliens.
Indiana Jones, and I was still happy I watched it because it's a joy to see that character, and I love Harrison Ford. So even if this is bad, I'll gladly see it. But I don't think it will be bad. I'm excited.
So Shia LaBeouf has not been confirmed for the
He
film?
might be in it. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the big follow-up. But Kathleen Kennedy of Disney said that specifically, like, you can't replace Harrison Ford. They said
It's
Indiana
impossible.
Jones is Indiana Jones, so they're not going to recast him, but they might do a, Mutt Williams, which was Shia LaBeouf's character's name, which is the worst name, but yeah.
They could reboot it, and they use Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
He's the only person that could be.
The name would be like Ohio Jackson or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Indiana Jones. Yeah.
There's
the
no
name is
state by
gone.
state.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be perfect. But yeah, he's the only person that could be. I will leave America if they
So
cast
he should
anybody else.
he should be the new Mutt,
The new what?
the new Mutt Jackson. What is his name?
Mutt Williams.
Mutt
Mutt
Williams?
Williams. Yes. Yes.
Worst name. So I stumbled upon a really odd and terrifying piece of movie news. Have you guys heard of the movie Roar?
Roar?
Roar.
I have not.
No, I have not. What's the premise to this movie?
Well, it's very unique. This is a movie that was filmed in, I believe, the 70s, and it was filmed over the course of 11 years. When it initially came out, it had a very limited run. It was out for a week before it was pulled from theaters. But essentially what it is, and it's not a documentary, it's like a fictional movie with a storyline. It's essentially a bunch of people living in a closed-in area with a bunch of wild lions. Untrained lions.
Wow.
And they try to make a story out of it.
Like real people?
Yeah, like there's like 150 people or something.
Holy crap.
Now, they released a trailer for it, and this shit is clearly not scripted. There's some fucking crazy terrifying shit that's going on. So look up Roar. Look up that trailer. They're finally re-releasing it, and it had big names like Tippi Hedren, who was the star from the movie The Birds, and there is Melanie Griffith is in it. She's another big actress of that time. But yeah, they literally just lived in this facility with wild lions. There was over 70 injuries that happened. Dude got his leg bit off. A person got scalped.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is something that could have only come out of the 70s.
It sounds like a precursor to Survivor.
This could never happen today. But just from the trailer alone, I was cringing so hard because I'm this is freaking crazy. Who the hell would do this? Yeah, and they show wide shots, and there's just 30 lions laying out, eating meat, hanging out, and there's people in the pool, and it's the weirdest thing ever. So
whoa. So how long did those people live?
Well, 11 years. It took 11 years to film it. So I don't think they lived there
incredible.
The entire time, but there was extended time just hanging out and seeing what would happen, more or less.
Yeah, basically, let's see if we could get a human eaten in this show.
So yeah, look up clips from this movie. It'll blow your mind. Wow. And I don't know when it's coming out exactly. They just released a trailer for the re-release, but I want to see it because it's shocking. That's for sure. Almost what's most unbelievable about it is that they filmed it this long with this many people, with this many wild lions, and nobody died. I'm surprised. Yeah, that's surprising.
You said somebody got scalped?
Yeah, somebody got scalped. And in the trailer, you literally see people... They have ridiculous scenes where people are driving around on dirt bikes, past the lions. And, the lion, you see, a lion will swipe for his head, and the dude just, dodges it last minute. Whoa. He could have been dead in a second.
Stupid lion!
I mean, guys who literally get jumped on by lions. And
so the director's hey...
And then some other dude with, a stick is, hitting the lion, and then, he just crawls away, and he's got, a bloody leg, and it's my God.
So the director's literally okay, day 30... We're not getting enough excitement. You get on a dirt bike, go drive by the lions.
Day 30, we locked Jim outside the house.
Yeah, Jim was pissing us off, so we locked him out with the lions.
Jim ate my last Snickers bar. He was locked outside.
Yeah, the tagline for the film is, "No animals were harmed in the making of this film. 70 cast and crew members were."
Wow,
that's the tagline. So, yeah,
put that on the list, guys.
Batshit insane. I couldn't believe that one.
There's definitely some LSD in that decision.
I feel that was a Disney movie gone wrong.
Somebody missed the memo that it was actually supposed to be an animated film. So, but instead they just caught a bunch of wild lions. They're
we don't have the computer technology to make fake lions. So we
the first 15 minutes there was supposed to be a dance scene, and then they got broken up by a bunch of lions.
Wow.
So that's all I got for movies today. Let's move on to politics.
Okay.
I guess, Nick, why don't you...
Yeah, this could be... it's really difficult to stay positive with politics this week. Luckily, Donald Trump's news has been relatively modest in negativity. Yeah.
Which is funny, a quiet week in Trump land is an entire new healthcare program being unveiled, WikiLeaks leaking CIA information. That's a quiet leak during the Trump administration.
Exactly. Everybody's walking on eggshells in America right now. They're afraid to awaken Trump.
So last night I was eating dinner with my family, and they said on the news somebody had jumped the fence at the White House.
That happens at every...
And I said, I know. I was they're starting... And they said there was no security threats or anything like that, but they said that Donald Trump was home, and I was man, so we've already got people jumping the fence at the White House.
Yeah, that happens every year. But anyways, delve into the political news of the week. Like Jason said, some of the big news was the Republican replacement of Obamacare, which is officially called the American Health Care Act. It has been, is what you could really call it, I guess, instead of Obamacare.
He doesn't want it called Trump Care, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, the official name, do you guys know the truly official name in the document?
No.
If you go and look, and this is undoubtedly Trump's idea, it is literally called, the official title is World's Greatest Healthcare Plan of 2017. That is the name of the bill.
I have no comment on that.
I want to really know what the other healthcare plans are. World's greatest healthcare plan. There's other plans that we could look at.
Right. So let's get into the specifics for our listeners. So the American Health Care Act introduces a few new ideas to fixing America's healthcare epidemic while possibly introducing a few more issues along with it. So let's go down the list. There will be no more requirement to buy health insurance. That was a stipulation under Obamacare that everybody in the U.S. had to have insurance. Part of the reason was to help fund the program. Large companies will no longer be charged a penalty for not offering insurance. There's still going to be tax credits like Obamacare, but they're going to be based on age and family size. The current law is based on how much you earn. Now, this part of the act that's been introduced by Paul Ryan has been getting a lot of criticism because you could potentially have people who are older and who are very wealthy that will get a larger subsidy compared to somebody who's younger and much poorer. So that's getting a lot of negativity. Insurance companies cannot deny insurance based on pre-existing conditions. This is something that we saw with Obamacare. This was pretty much going nowhere. People would have had a field day if this would have been taken out, so they included that. The law will charge those who have not had insurance for 63 days a 30% premium increase for 12 months. Now, even though under Obamacare, if you did not have insurance, you were charged a tax penalty at the end of the year. Well, Republicans really hated that idea, but in order to at least provide some income coming in for this program, they've got to generate revenue somehow. So this is it. If you don't have insurance for 63 days under potentially this new law, you will be slapped with a 30% premium for 12 months if you decide to have health insurance. There will be no more 10 basic essential coverages that were under Obamacare. This included, like, I guess I don't even know all the details, like pregnancy testing, like basic health coverages that were supposed to be guaranteed under the law. So this will introduce policy options that could be severely limited in scope and what they offer. So you could potentially have a plan that is you pay significant amount for every month, but will only cover if you die. No, I'm just kidding. If you have a serious health issue, but anything smaller, like you have the flu and you have to go to the doctor, that might not be covered. Another big part of the plan that will be rolled over from Obamacare is that kids can stay on their parents' insurance until age 26. This was another basic no-touch part of the bill that Republicans knew they had to get in, and for good reason. Taxes on prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, health insurance premiums, and medical devices will be repealed if this bill is passed. There are people on the right that really applaud this because they want lower taxes, but at the same time, you need a way to be able to pay for this, and a large chunk of Obamacare subsidies came from the taxes that were introduced on prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and premiums, etc. So this further introduces the question of how this is going to be paid for. Taxes on the wealthy individuals are going to disappear. We're looking at $250 million a year that could be wiped away.
They say those that make over $1 million will be no longer have to worry about $50,000 of taxes.
Right.
The top 0.1% of our country are getting $195,000 of taxes eliminated.
Yes, yeah. So that's a big part of it. Another little stipulation that goes in with that is they want to remove the tax deduction on executive pay for insurance companies. Right now, under Obamacare, the maximum tax deduction that an insurance company can take is $500,000 a year. That will be removed. So executive pay that ranges in the millions and millions and millions of dollars, they will get to deduct that from their taxes, and that's income that they get to keep. So that's another That's another part of the bill. I'm being completely neutral here, guys, just for a second.
What's the name of this bill again?
The best, greatest plan ever.
Yeah, I forgot. I had it up here, but I closed
Yeah.
it.
Just want to get the facts out for everybody.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
We're going to see rollback of federal Medicaid funding starting in 2020. That would have covered people under 138% below the federal poverty level.
That's 14 million people who are currently insured due to Medicaid would be on pace to lose it by 2020.
Yes. Yeah, and another part of that provision is that federal spending would be capped per state, actually per person per state, whereas now if states increase funding in Medicaid for individuals, the federal government would match state funding. So Paul Ryan's plan basically says this is how much you're going to get, and that's it. They're going to increase HSA savings, health savings accounts, so people who can afford to save will have the option to save. People who cannot afford to save, the people that we generally see using Obamacare, this will not probably benefit them. And so you add all that up, and there's no information on how this program is going to be paid for. So we talked about the taxes on executive pay, taxes on prescription drugs, premiums, devices, those taxes on the wealthy that can afford the insurance. If those are eliminated, you're not going to have a way to pay for this program. By the time our listeners listen to this podcast, hopefully the Congressional Budget Office review will be out, so we'll have exact numbers on how the AHA program is going to be funded, essentially, and how many people could potentially lose coverage.
That is a pipe dream. That's not going to be happening, because I've listened to what the hell is his name? I can't think of it. You just said his name not that long ago.
Paul Ryan,
and he's like, his response is, just wait, it's coming down the line, right. Just wait, because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah. So these are the facts. There have been some early analysis done by some think tanks that are basically saying that up to 15 million people could lose coverage under Obamacare. That's 3/4 of people that are currently covered. So that's a huge, significant portion of the people that really need coverage. So yeah, that's what I have this week. I had issues with this.
As what as Paul Ryan called it, it's a conservative's wet dream. Those are his exact words when he described it.
Which is funny that he used those words, because as it turns out, he's facing major opposition on both sides of the aisle.
Yes. And
from doctors, and from hospitals, and from insurers. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of people who have been happy with the changes. Republicans say that it's essentially Obamacare light. Mm-hmm. Democrats say obviously with the taxes and loss of care for poor individuals, there's a lot of issues there.
Republicans are big on the free market, and another big issue with this potential bill is you're not going to be able to buy insurance across state lines. So if you're really big on the free market, why wouldn't you open up markets to potential more insurers? Because a lot of these states, you have one or two big insurers, and that's all that people can buy from. Well, that doesn't really create this free market idea where if there's a lot of competition, it'll drive down prices. So I feel horrible for some of these people in these states where their only option is Blue Anthem, Blue Shield, or whatever, or Humana Health or whatever, and that's whatever they offer is what they have to take. And if they don't have the support from the government to buy this insurance, they're basically priced out of having health coverage.
I know we've had this conversation before, but I just want to point out the fact that there is no creation being happening of a new bill. That this is just a modification that they're trying to do. When we talked about this before, yeah. I don't know. It just seems poorly thought out.
It is. They're essentially just really being forced in a position of trying to follow up on their promise that they were going to repeal Obamacare.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So of course, they're trying to put together a plan as soon as they can. I think Trump was already famously quoted as saying, like, turns out, like, creating an entire new healthcare bill is kind of hard.
It's really hard, yeah.
It takes some time.
Yeah, Democrats spent 2 years designing and voting on Obamacare, and this is going to be a couple months. Like, it's a little disheartening, and especially when they wanted to get the ball rolling before the Congressional Budget Office review was out because they were afraid of what they might reveal. They've already been condemning that potential review, even though the head of the CBO is a Republican that was elected by Congress, Republican Congress, 2 years ago. So that's a little worrisome. Just to touch on your note before, people there isn't a lot of support for this bill right now. 20 Republicans have already dropped out because their states get a lot of support for Medicaid, and a lot of their constituents are on Medicaid. So it's basically political death if they support this bill.
I have a strong feeling that this is not going to reach the 218 votes required. It's going to be, there's changes need to be made before this is ever pushed forward. So
yeah, especially when that review comes out, and it will probably show that there's no way to pay for this, and millions and millions of people are going to lose coverage.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, in the next 3 weeks we start seeing Hillary Clinton ads for a bill, like, to get people to vote for this bill. Only Hillary Clinton would vote for this.
Right.
Yeah. So
that is that news for this week on the AHA bill.
Yes. So.
Oh.
Yes. Wait, positive podcast. I'm trying to find some positive words. I will say that healthcare is good.
Yeah.
Everybody likes healthcare.
Yeah, it's nice to be alive. Yeah. Yeah. The next podcast, when that review comes out, I'll definitely add more input.
There should be more substantial information to work off of this.
Yeah.
You've officially sucked out all my optimism of my body. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, but just to reiterate again to our listeners that this doesn't look good. There's going to be really no essential way to pay for this, and a lot of people are going to lose coverage. That's the initial review of this potential bill. So stay tuned.
So let's move forward to the next big piece of news and politics this week, and that would be the Wikileaks CIA leak. So for those not familiar, Wikileaks published and currently has available what they call their Vault 7 leak, which essentially leaked a ton of information about the CIA and what they're able to do and what they have been doing. So I'll just touch on a couple of things that have been unveiled. First of all, the CIA has the ability to break into Android and iPhone handsets as well as all kinds of computers. There's been a concerted effort to write various kinds of malware to spy on just about every piece of electronic equipment that people use. So iPhones, Android, computers, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, everything. If it's as powerful as the claim from WikiLeaks says it is, it can be used to do everything. It can turn your computer on and off. It can see every URL, every video, every word you typed.
If your TV has a microphone, and your TV is not turned on, they can turn that microphone on and listen to conversations.
Yeah, that's another. They call it so CIA-ish with their terrifying names for things, but they call it the Weeping Angel program.
Oof.
That allows intelligence agencies to install special software that allows TVs to be turned into listening devices, so that even when they appear to be switched off, they're actually on.
Yeah.
I'm like, who comes up with these names?
They have a brilliant.
Are they trying to sound as evil as possible?
Right.
Cut out to level 3. We need a new name.
Yeah. Yeah. The CIA is pretty upset that this information has been released, and there have been third-party advisors who say that this is legitimate. This leak is extremely legitimate.
It certainly seems to be
100% legitimate. So to bring some positivity into this, WikiLeaks has offered companies that are affected by these issues to get these systems patched to prevent the CIA from eavesdropping.
Apple has already come out and said that since the time of this leak, they've already patched almost all of the exploits that were identified. But it's also important to note that this makes encrypted messaging apps like WhatsApp and Signal and Telegram and even the Tor network useless, because if they put a piece of malware onto your phone or computer, it's able to read any of that stuff before it ever gets encrypted.
Right.
It's interesting to think about because like I've been seeing a lot of like coverage over like the fight against terrorism in the Middle East and like how like Middle Eastern terrorist groups use technology to operate against the United States. So it makes me wonder how like if we have all this technology to do this stuff, how our fight against terrorist organizations isn't going better than it is right now.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, and it's important, to those who aren't tech savvy, loading this piece of software that's able to monitor Android phones and iPhones and computers, it's not something that they can just throw at you from the internet. They have to use a phishing attack, which is essentially that means that they throw out a piece of bait for an end user, whether it's a link to porn or it's a fake email. They need to get the end user to load a file onto their device.
Oh, damn it, I already did it.
Josh is fucked.
So I've got so many weird malicious programs on my computer.
So, I mean, if that makes you sleep a little better, it's not just going to show up on your computer without you doing anything to allow it. Whether it's a flash drive that's plugged in, something along those lines. So they don't. So that's kind of answers your questions with these foreign entities, is that they'd have to trick them in one way or another. And I'm sure these guys are trained to be aware of that type of thing.
I know that has been an issue with counterintelligence, that like organizations like ISIS are using encrypted platforms, and they can't find out where they're going to attack next or what their plan of attack of their motives are going into the future, because they're using these encrypted programs. So it makes sense that they've developed these, but if they use them on the American people, then we're getting into some serious issues.
And it's also concerning that with these exploits and bugs that they found in all these devices, maybe this is obvious, but they didn't disclose any of these exploits or bugs with Apple or Google or Microsoft or any of those big companies, which essentially means that they allow these vulnerabilities to exist on these devices without sharing the information so that they could use it. But that also means that foreign entities could use it, terrorist organizations could use it. So they allowed these exploits to exist for arguably years without any patching of these holes. So,
but it's good to see companies like Apple taking the next step in patching. So optimistic.
Yes,
we can fight the overreach of the government.
No, and I don't know whether this is pessimistic or optimistic on my end, but this leak offered absolutely no surprises for me. This was not. I mean, it's sad, and it's sad to see it confirmed as true through these leaks. But I think anybody who's tech savvy had an idea already that the CIA and other entities are definitely tied into our network of phones and all that type of stuff. And frankly, these leaks, in my opinion, pale compared to the Snowden leaks of the NSA. The NSA was much more far-reaching and much more invasive, I think, than this, because these CIA leaks are more so targeted attacks, where again they'd want to specifically try to target a specific person or device and try to get them to load this malware onto the machine. It's not just some overarching surveillance of the entire country. So that's another piece of positive news you can pull out of it. I will say there's just one other leak that kind of weirded me out, and it's a little bit strange, but it also showed that the CIA is actively researching how to hack into cars and control them remotely, which immediately makes me think crashing cars, and making assassination attempts look like accidents. Is that a little conspiratorial? I don't know. Why else would they want to control a car like that? So I think that also, for the average Joe, and I'm a tech person myself, but I've been trying to move a little bit away from the Internet of Things and having every single device be smart, including your car and all this other type of stuff, because whether it's the CIA or not, anything that has an internet connection and runs on an operating system has the potential to be hacked. So I don't know if I trust a car, that's running an operating system to function. So just to be aware, there might be a counterculture movement in the future that really starts to shy away from everything being so connected and technological.
Especially if we continue to see these leaks.
Right. Saying
that the government is capable of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, when that first came out, the first thing that I saw on our evening news is obviously they wanted to discredit the person who's putting the leaks out. So obviously everybody blames Assange as being a Russian agent or a sympathizer. So
Yeah, if they do find the person, there will be treasonous actions taken against them.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's only, I mean, in my opinion, it's only a positive for the average American citizen to know this. Just my opinion.
Yep.
So.
And it's
good news.
And it's a good opinion.
Well, moving on to the last bit of political news this week, has to do with climate change. It's hard to keep this segment positive, but so Scott Pruitt is the head of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency.
And he knows his shit.
He is a very smart guy. He had an interview where he was asked, do you believe that it's been proven that CO2 is the primary control knob for climate? He was asked this question, and his answer was, no. I think that measuring the precision human activity on the climate is something very challenging to do, and there's tremendous disagreement about the degree of impact. So no, I would not agree that it's a primary contributor to the global warming that we see. But we don't know that yet. We need to continue the debate and continue the review and analysis. So essentially he's going against 99% of the consensus in the science community that says humans are...
That was a little higher than I was going to say. I was going to say 97%, but okay.
Oh, 97%? Okay. Maybe I'm a little wrong. Okay,
no,
so
that's probably a better number than mine.
Yeah, 97 to 99% of consensus within the science community that humans are, in fact, a contributor, the major contributor to climate change.
God damn it, we need to consider those 3 other percents.
So it's very disheartening to see the head of the EPA deny this claim. To find the optimism in this, there is definitely a growing movement online, and that people are aware that the head of the EPA is making these claims. We're starting to see some political protests. There's going to be a march for science on Earth Day in Washington. So people are becoming aware. People are, I think, with these negative claims that he's making are uniting people to this cause. So that's about as positive as I can get.
I just have to say, I think after the Trump administration gets out of office, I think they're going to start a new business where they sell hats to people, because this picture that Nick is showing me online of, I think that's Scott Pruitt, right?
He's like, it's a hat.
He's holding a goddamn hat up, and they're going to go and sell their own hats.
This is the hat of the EPA, yeah.
It's going to be a hat. I fucked up the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want our listeners to know that climate change is real. And later on in our podcast, I'll provide some facts to substantiate that.
Every single one of our top 10 highest yearly temperatures in the world have taken place after the year 2000. Mm-hmm. 2016 was the highest worldwide temperature on our record. So
yeah. So let's wrap up political news.
Yeah, we're going to move on to my favorite game of the week, which is predictions, where each one of us predict the ratings for films and games coming out in the near future. We make note of our guesses and see who won the following week. This week, we'll be reviewing our predictions for Beauty and the Beast and Ghost Recon Wildlands. So we'll start with Beauty and the Beast. Nick predicted a 78%, Josh predicted an 87%, and I predicted a 64%, which I believe Josh told me last week was really crazy low. The actual percentage this week was 68%.
What did you say? What did you say it was?
68%.
What did you say? You thought
64.
Making me the winner.
Jason is.
God damn it!
I'm a little bit disappointed that I won this week, because I was looking forward to the film despite my hesitancies. So. 68% is still a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. It's still recommended. Anything above 60% is recommended. But
do you think that was a fair review of that movie? Or do you think it's just people like giving?
Well, again, it's not a review. It's 63 reviews around the nation that have been aggregated into one source. So I don't think it's some bias. I think it's people's opinions. So we'll see how it is. For context, I believe the original Beauty and the Beast is like 100% or something like that. So,
yes,
Really?
crazy.
I didn't know.
yeah, it's considered an all-time classic. So I still want to see it. I'm going to see it with my family when it comes out because my daughter would love to see it. So I'll probably have my full impressions after it comes out next Friday. But 68% for Beauty and the Beast.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you son of a gun.
I know.
I have a feeling he's going to win the next one, too.
Next one is Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is a kind of a military shooter for Xbox and PlayStation 4. Nick predicted a 60. Josh predicted an 89, and I predicted a 79. And the actual score for Ghost Recon Wildlands was 74.
What the hell?
Which makes me the winner again. You
Josh,
guys,
it's all your fault.
you're making this too easy for me.
I swear this is rigged.
Yeah.
So that adds 2 points to my total this week, leaving Nick and Josh at 2, and it brings my total score to 6. And I am starting to run away with the lead. You guys are going to have to turn this around starting this week.
We're going to do 1 million podcasts until we catch up to you.
Podcast will never end.
Yeah.
So we're making 3 new predictions this week. 1 game and 2 movies. The game is Mass Effect Andromeda, a big one. In any other year, this might be considered the biggest game of the year, but in a year where Zelda came out and Mario is coming out and several new IPs have already come out, it's one of the big ones, but not the biggest. The 2 movies are Life and Power Rangers, but we'll start with Mass Effect Andromeda. Could I get your guys' predictions? Josh.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to think of what life was about. But 99%. That's my prediction. That's a biased prediction, but that's my prediction.
I'm going to say just throw in his vote here.
Right?
Throw in it.
There is no way the game is getting above 90. I'm going to say...
You're going to eat those words. No.
Yeah, right. If we're talking Metacritic, okay. Oh, this is...
Open Critic.
Open Critic. This is so difficult. I'm going to say...
Give it a really crappy rating.
I'm going to say 85.
Okay. Ooh, that makes my guess tough. I love the old Mass Effect games. I know the third one, a lot of people were disappointed with the ending, but they were all rated as some of the best games ever made when they came out. With that said, this game, they haven't really showed a lot of footage, and the footage they have shown, it's not that it looks bad, but they haven't revealed anything really of the game. They've made it really mysterious and intriguing, which does make it a really hard estimate. So I think with the mix of praise that the past games have got, plus with my love for the series in general, I'm going to predict a 92.
Ooh.
92.
I feel terrible. Well, like you said, there hasn't been a lot of content been released. Like, they have like these cinematic trailers.
I think they've done a terrible job with building hype for the game, actually.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because it's such a big game.
Some of the
I haven't
combat-
watched anything on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I won't say too much, but some of the combat that I've watched, it doesn't make me very excited. Like, you get a lot of enemies that they're basically just sitting there and they're just punching bags for you to use your powers.
It's really hard to say because there just hasn't been enough footage
right,
yet.
Yeah.
So
I hope I'm wrong.
this is one where I'm very excited to see how the reviews turn
Right.
out because I have no idea.
I do think that did they go for? I heard that they did go for an open world feel for this game. Which is
It's not open world. It's more open than the other games.
Okay.
But it's really like hubs, the same way that the other games
Yeah.
world, and you use like faster than light travel to get to different areas and stuff. So, but when you land on planets, yes, they're much bigger areas, and they're like sandboxes rather than these really linear paths. So,
I hope I'm wrong, but I hope I win somehow.
The next prediction we're going to bring up is Life, which is a movie that we actually spoke about a few weeks ago on this podcast, and it's starring Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal, and it tells the story of a 6-member crew of the International Space Station that is on the cutting edge of one of the most important discoveries in human history, the first existence of extraterrestrial life on Mars. So, Josh, prediction.
74%.
Nick, what's your guess?
I'm gonna say 67%. I just think it's not gonna be good.
I'm going to go I'm going to go really low. I'm going to go with a 44%.
Ooh.
That's my guess. I think it's going to be another Passengers. Maybe a little bit better, but
Exactly.
but not a lot better.
Disappointing.
I don't like my score now. That's okay. I'll stay with it.
I
Yeah,
feel
you
like-
guys are close, so if
Yeah.
it's 74 and 67,
I feel like I'm the optimist in the group this week.
Yeah.
I would say a 99 on Memphis. Mass Effect. Well, okay, this makes this last pick the most exciting then.
Yes. This is good. This is good.
The one that you guys have been looking forward to all
movie
year.
of the year.
And that movie is called Power Rangers.
Oh yeah!
So, if those not familiar, it's an adaptation of the classic series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers about a group of ordinary high school kids who find themselves infused with extraterrestrial powers and must harness those powers as a team to save the world.
At the center of the universe in Angel Grove.
So, predictions, Josh.
I'm gonna say 75%.
Wow.
Bullshit.
A modern masterpiece.
Just because it's Bryan Cranston doesn't mean it's going to be amazing.
Nick, what's your guess?
I'm going to say 28%.
Oh, okay. Really, really, really bad.
You think it's gonna bomb?
Yep. But I'm still going to go see it because I want to.
I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to have a fresh rating. But I think it might surprise people just a little bit. Like, maybe it's a little bit more fun, or, like, it understands how ridiculous it is type of movie. So I'm going to go with a 51%.
That's fair.
So we should go see it and dress up as Power Rangers?
Yeah.
I was going to do that anyway.
I do that every night before I go to
I still
bed.
got my Red Ranger costume.
So those are our predictions for the week. We will revisit these when the reviews come out. Our next segment is called Optimism. I hardly know him. This is the part of the podcast where we find and share a positive piece of news, big or small, political or otherwise, and share it with our listeners.
Because I need it, because Nick sucked out all my
I kind of did. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, yes, and that's the whole point. We know it can be hard to find positivity right now, particularly in the media, which is why this segment is a focus of our show. So this week, I want to talk a little bit about the news that Justin Trudeau, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, has unveiled a $650 million investment in women's health and reproductive rights over the next 3 years. So this seems to stand, frankly, directly in opposition of the Trump administration and the direction they've gone, specifically with this healthcare bill and some of the family planning and reproductive rights that were eliminated there, or at least looking to be eliminated there. He actually announced his support on International Women's Day, and he says these $650 million will be focused on sexuality education, improving reproductive health services, and investing in family planning and contraceptives. He also went on to promise to promote gender equality at home and abroad, and advocates for the rights of women. So I think it's really good news. I think it's good to see somebody stand directly, in opposition to the way our administration is going, especially somebody that's right on our border that also is a first world country that is in a lot of ways similar to the U.S. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but
No, he just introduced this. It needs to get passed. Is that what?
he unveiled a
okay.
plan to spend
Okay.
$650 million over the next 3 years.
Yeah, Canada's pretty progressive, so I would assume that something like this would be passed. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a population want to invest in itself for the greater good of their society, because that's how you make progress. That's how you.
It's an important part of our
Yeah,
society. We
exactly.
should think about that with every female in our society.
And again, a large portion of this really focuses on education, sexuality,
Yeah.
and the way the body works, and how to use contraceptives. So it's
Right.
really important.
Yeah, statistically, when people they have the knowledge to understand how that process works, that's what prevents these unwanted pregnancies.
Right.
and-
Statistically, abstinence does not work.
Right.
Teaching abstinence does not work.
Yeah.
Telling kids not to be horny and not to have sex does not work.
Yeah,
You need
exactly.
to educate them on how to have sex in an intelligent way, in a safe way.
Yeah.
So
Billy, when it starts hurting down there, cut it off.
I'm glad you're not the president.
no,
of our
and
country.
frankly, right, what I just said is not my opinion. That's literally statistics.
Yeah, that's science.
That's fact.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, so thanks, Canada. We love you.
we love you, Justin.
Yeah. He is a stud.
He's a good-looking man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got Trump. Yeah.
You know,
He's a
too
stud,
bad.
too.
He's studly in a different way.
So our next segment we're going to talk about is our neat knowledge.
Knowledge
nibble.
nibble, yes. Every week we want to provide our listeners with a helpful helping of knowledge because knowledge is important, and without it,
We are nothing.
we are nothing. Exactly. I like that. But anyways, as I talked about earlier, I don't want to get negative again, but with Scott Pruitt and the EPA not making the claim that CO2 is a driving factor of raising warming temperatures across the earth, I wanted to provide these cool little facts for our listeners that prove otherwise. First of all, if you don't know this, you will now, and you should tell everybody going on in the future that NASA has a great website. It's climate.nasa.gov, and it's basically a pool of information that proves we are the cause of climate change, and it proves with evidence, it proves with facts, pictures.
The great thing is it's really well laid out.
Yes.
It's actually almost fun to read through because
Yeah.
there's a lot of interactive videos and pictures. And
Absolutely. It's very consumable for the average person that might be a little scared of science. So it's the truth.
I just like how you put that.
a large portion of the population
Yeah.
truly is scared of science.
Right, yeah. People
I
were
can say
pretty
that.
pissed that Galileo said the earth was round and not flat. So
People are pretty pissed today that say that we have an effect on global warming.
right. Yeah, history repeats itself.
Just think it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Science.
Science.
He's talking about science. Get out of here.
It's not scary, people.
Where's the window? I need to jump out.
you act like it's like a plague. Like, oh, you got your science on me. Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to repeat that again. Climate.nasa.gov. Put it in your bookmarks. Share it with your friends. And the more people that find out about this and look at it, the quicker we can continue to fight this epidemic. So I'll just share some quick facts with you. I don't want to get too specific, but because they're not good. But carbon dioxide levels that are measured in parts per million are at 405.92 parts per million in the atmosphere, which is horrible. You go over the millennia.
Do we have like a normal rate? What would be like a normal?
Over the last 650,000 years, it's averaged like around 200.
Around 200, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're well above that limit. Global temperatures, average rise in global temperatures at 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. Conveniently right around the Industrial Revolution. Arctic minimum ice levels have decreased 13.3% per decade because of rising temperatures. They can measure that with a stick with lines on it. It measures in inches. It's real.
Some high-tech stuff.
Exactly. It's absolutely real. And you can look at pictures and you can see it. So it's not fake. Land ice is down because obviously Arctic ice is down. So we're at 281 gigatons per year down because of rising temperatures caused by human activity.
That's a lot of gigatons.
It's a lot of gigatons. I didn't even know that word existed.
They made it up just for that number.
Exactly.
It's so big.
It's consumable, guys. It's consumable. Sea level rise because of the decrease in ice because of human activity causing climate change is up nearly 7 inches over the past 7 years. And we can see that in places like Miami, Florida, where they experience flooding on a daily basis. We see that, I don't know if it's
New
in
Orleans?
Bangladesh.
Is that what New Orleans be part of that or no?
New Orleans is well below sea level, but I don't know if they're experiencing daily flooding. Miami, Florida is really porous ground, so the seawater basically just comes up through the ground and floods the streets. Bangladesh is well below sea level, and they've actually been some of the first climate change refugees. Their land is literally being swallowed up by the ocean. So that is my neat knowledge nibble for the week. Climate.nasa.gov. Check out the facts, share it with your friends, and let's fight this.
Thank you, Nick. Very useful information. Good for everybody to know.
Fighting words.
I guess let's just move right forward into your next
segment, yes.
Which kind of ties in with the whole fact-checking ideas.
Yes. It does. Let's gather around, everybody. Let's have us a fact check.
All right, I'm here.
Fake news is a real problem in this country. Foundation of Free Press and Free Speech work to counteract this overreach of power by certain pillars within our democratic republic. Fake news works as an agent to dismantle these forces, to allow the free flow of ideas to propagate through the minds of our citizens and push society towards greater inclusion. We should find it our duty to help minimize this counterproductive force. We need to shine light on fake news, and we need to address this issue head on. No bullshit, just the facts. So this week, I actually saw this on Facebook. Somebody posted an article about Betsy DeVos. She is the head of the Department of Education. She's been getting a lot of flack. And she had an interview where she supposedly said that if it's not important enough to be mentioned in the Bible, I don't see why it's important enough to be in our textbooks. So basically what she's saying is we take the Bible literally. It's all we should be teaching our children. And it turns out that claim is completely false.
Yeah, the worst part about it is it's not even partially true.
Yeah.
It's completely fabricated.
It was completely fabricated by a hilarious named website called politicalgarbageshoot.com.
Should anybody be surprised that was made up?
Right?
I get my news from political garbage.
Yeah.
It's the only people you could trust.
Right. Yeah, so that was propagating across the internet. People were sharing that as it was real, and it turns out it's completely fake. She never said that. So that is it.
Yeah, and it just shows, once again, that fake news affects both sides of the aisle, both liberal and conservative. Mm-hmm. So on both sides, it's always very important to fact check what you're spreading or believing or reading. And, I think, to be fair, Betsy DeVos does have a lot of ties to Christian organizations, mm-hmm. and that's true. I think out of the $100 million that the DeVos Family Foundation gave out over the last 5 years, nearly half of it went to Christian organizations. Mm-hmm. So there is some definite ties with religion and Christianity, but it's important to note that.
Yeah, this week I wanted to just show that the left is capable just as well as the right of propagating these fake news stories and really smearing her, because obviously, the left has a lot of issues with her. So yeah, I just wanted to reveal this. And,
a lot of teachers have a lot of issues with her.
Right.
Yeah. She's going to try to enact a voucher program that will undermine a lot of middle schools and public schools and stuff like that.
But I think it was important to talk about this week because, as you said, both sides are susceptible, and that's the one positive that this whole fake news phenomenon has brought in, is that hopefully it forces people to be more aware of the news that they're spreading. So.
Yeah.
Touché.
We now move forward to our podcast game of the week. So every week we choose a podcast game to play. These games can be completely random and fun, or they can veer more towards the serious side of things. This week we ask favorite entries in famous franchises. So in this game, I provide a famous or highly regarded film or video game franchise, and we pick our favorite entry of the franchise and explain why we love it. So this week I will be asking about several franchises, and I'm going to start with Indiana Jones. We spoke about this a little earlier, our excitement for the new entry. Why don't one of us for each movie pick their favorite? So who wants to take this one?
Go ahead, Josh. I'll do it if you don't want to.
No, I can do it. My favorite entry of that, what do you call that?
Franchise
is this one used to be my least favorite, but now it is my favorite. Is the Temple of Doom franchise. Because I think, franchise, movie, because I just think that movie is just over the top, awesome.
That is true.
Ridiculous. There's so much I love about that movie. Short Round, the beginning is so amazing.
Monkey brains.
like you just drank poison, Dr. Jones. I mean, that's one of the greatest scenes in the movie. I mean,
some good one-liners in that movie.
Or like the bridge scene. He crazy. So that's my favorite.
I will say that that is a classic, and I enjoy it too. But it is really offensive nowadays. It really is. The Asian stereotypes with Short Round, and then like the damsel in distress shit with the blonde girl, like, and how she's like, "Ooh, I don't like bugs, and you gotta save me." Like,
she would go on to be that's Steven Spielberg's wife. Are they still married?
I don't know.
I didn't know.
That's news to me. Yeah. But I do like that pick. That is a classic.
That's a good one.
The Kalima.
Shakti. I remember being a kid and watching that scene when that guy gets his heart ripped out, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
You can almost feel it in your chest.
Yeah, like
you're like, "Oh,
right." Like, I'm never going to an island with indigenous people.
I love that movie because they always, when we talk about like sound effects, like the sound effects when they're punching people, I always love the sound effects.
Oh yeah,
so good. It's a good pick.
Yeah, the next one I'm going to go with Mario. Nick, I'll let you take that one, being the Nintendo guy.
Yeah. I did write up this. I picked Super Paper Mario for the Wii.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Mario Paint.
Mario typing, man. You need to bring that back. Yeah, it was a toss-up between this game and Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii.
Wow, okay.
Because both of them they both introduced a new perspective on playing Mario. Super Mario Galaxy, you had the spheres that Mario would run around, and it introduced that new idea.
Three-dimensionality.
Yeah. Super Paper Mario for the Wii, it was essentially 2D Mario, and he looked like paper.
Sheets of paper, right?
Yeah. But Mario gets a power in the game where he can turn the 2D dimension into 3D dimension. So it allows the player to solve puzzles in a 3D fashion. And I just thought, playing the game, I just thought it was amazing.
So is the game, is it still a platformer, or is it more of an RPG?
The Paper Mario was an RPG. That was the first game that went platformer. It was no longer turn-based.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a defining moment in the series. Not only that, the game was super charming. And the interactions with Bowser and Peach, and it was more story driven. There was a lot of text reading and everything, and it was just really cute. And the way that they interacted out their stories, it's just like it really engaged the player. It was genuinely funny and charming, and you really enjoyable experience. I won't say magical because Josh doesn't like that word, but
Nintendo is full of magic, man.
Exactly.
It's hard to not use that word with them.
Yeah, exactly. And the main villain in the game is actually Count Black, and so you actually play as Peach, you play as Bowser, you play as Luigi and Mario. So you have to defeat Count Black.
Oh, nice.
So that was another really cool perspective on Mario.
I feel like they would have run into some copyright issues. Count Black, like Count Blackula, or like,
yeah. He actually looks like a vampire in the game.
Count Chocula.
That's the whole game is like a lot of tongue in cheek and
kind
just
of self-referential.
It picks on itself, yeah,
And you fight a serial villain.
Yeah, a lot of critics really hated this game, and a lot of people really loved it. It was a love-hate relationship, basically. But it sticks out in my mind, and when I played it, I was just floored by how awesome it was. Like going from 2D to 3D,
sure.
It was awesome. It was so why didn't I think of that? And of course, Nintendo thought of it. So.
Well, I really like that pick because obviously the one you'd assume is like Super Mario 64, Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you kind of picked a lesser known title. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
The next one is Harry Potter, and I'll take this one. I think my favorite entry has to be the last one, which I think is maybe the obvious pick. But I just think I started watching the Harry Potter movies before I ever read the books, and it wasn't until maybe after movie 4 or so that I finally dove into the books. And what this led to was actually me finishing the final book in the series about a week before the final movie came out. So it was just a really fun experience for me to go through both of those journeys at the same time and close them out kind of at the same time. And I just really think that, I mean, the final movie is just pure action and emotion from beginning to end. There's deaths of characters that you love. There's triumphs for the good side. There's tons of action and special effects, and there's fear involved, and there's plenty of plot twists, and I think it had a beautiful ending. I really enjoyed it. I think the popular pick might be the third movie, which is The Prisoner of Azkaban.
That's what I picked, yeah.
And that's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who directed like Children of Men. He directed Gravity, and he's just an excellent director. And that's probably my second favorite. But I just I think it's rare to be able to close out a franchise, especially a franchise with 8 entries, and to be able to close that out so conclusively and so well. And actually, the final film is also the highest reviewed film on Rotten Tomatoes of all the series, and that's so rare to see the last movie in a series be the best as well. So that's my favorite.
I like that pick.
So the next one I'm going to go with will be Grand Theft Auto, and I'll let Josh try that one.
Oh, God. No, don't let me try.
Okay.
Don't let me try that one. I haven't played that.
Okay,
game.
I can take that one. My favorite for that one is Vice City. So I never played the first 2 games. The first 2 games are 2-dimensional, and starting with 3, they went into 3D. So 3, I think, kind of laid down the foundation of the series and kind of introduced the new gameplay elements and the idea of an open world. 3 was revolutionary because there was never any game before that was like that. It was kind of a do anything you want type game. It was really cool. So the one that immediately came out after 3 was Vice City, which essentially took that whole concept and laid it down into a new wave infested 80s environment. So there's cocaine, and there's the over-the-top colors and clothing and hair.
Is that the one in Miami?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's in Vice City, but it's based off of Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, and and then there's all the crazy drug use and the awesome music of that era. I still listen to that music today. That game got me into all those '80s hits and all that new wave pop stuff. So I have a special place in my heart for it. I don't think it's aged very well. I think if I played it today, it probably wouldn't be fun for anybody playing it for the first time. I think the actual best game is probably the most recent one, but my favorite is Vice City. So the next one, favorite movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Josh takes
You want
that
to take
one.
that one? You're the superhero guy.
All right, Marvel? Just Marvel?
Yeah, just Marvel Cinematic Universe, so no X-Men. It has to be from the connected universe.
So I can't include like the Tobey Maguire movies?
No, because that's not part of the universe.
Okay.
So that's
Love you, Toby.
That's Iron Man. That's
okay.
Yeah, Thor and Incredible Hulk and
Guardians of the Galaxy. That's my favorite. I think it's the most well-rounded story. I think it's got intriguing characters. I think it's a story that can go in any direction that it wants. It can explore more. It has such more potential than the other ones. I thought the Iron Man, and I bring that too because I thought the Iron Man series kind of went downhill after maybe like the second one. But a close second for me behind Guardians of the Galaxy would be the Captain America second and third movie. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I love the Captain America movies. That trilogy started out kind of as one of the lower end films, and then really worked its way probably to some of my favorites as well. So, but I like your pick on Guardians of the Galaxy. It's of all the Marvel films coming out, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is the one I'm by far most excited for. Yeah. So. We're going to do one more, and we're going to choose the Batman movie series, and that can be either the Dark Knight movies or the older Tim Burton movies. So
I'll just say my quick pick. I picked The Dark Knight, basically because of Heath Ledger.
So that's an easy one.
Yeah, the Joker, the way he played Joker in that movie was just phenomenal, and I really liked Christian Bale as Batman.
I actually, it was funny thing is when I was coming over here today, I was thinking about Batman on the way over here, and I was thinking about these buildings where they have like these giant containers of like chemicals just sitting there, because like that's how Joker is formed, and the old one falls into like a container of chemicals. If I would say my favorite on the series, I would say the one with Michael Keaton.
The original Batman?
Yeah.
For me, I guess since we're all just going to toss in our opinions on this one, for me, it is a tie between Batman Begins, because I think it's the best origin story for Batman out of all the films. It was really intriguing and believable and grounded, and it was cool the way that they wanted to create, like a symbol that everybody can fear, that, goes beyond what any single man can do. And like the whole concept of it was really cool. It would be between that one and Batman Returns, which is the sequel to the Michael Keaton one. And I think I like that one because that was a Tim Burton movie too. And it was a mix of being a Batman film and being a Tim Burton film, so it wasn't afraid to be really dark and weird. Like the way they did Danny DeVito's depiction of Penguin was like really gross and scary, and the use of music was really good. And it's actually one of my favorite Christmas movies, which is kind of funny. But that entire movie takes place during the holiday season, and it's
that movie. I just saw that movie not long ago, and that's a violent movie.
It's a weird movie too. It's way weirder than any other Batman movie out there. So those are the two that I like. Yeah. So we're approaching the end of our podcast episode this week. Do you guys have any lingering topics you want to touch on?
I do.
Okay.
I just want to make a recommendation because I didn't do my normal movie segment. Yeah. Did you guys know what was the last? Do you guys know what was the last movie produced for VHS?
That's a great
I've got a good
question.
guess. I think it might be right.
Take a guess.
I'm probably wrong. Titanic?
No. I guess.
I'll just say Pearl Harbor. I don't know. I have no idea.
I was way wrong on my guess.
End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I swear to God, this movie is the best movie I've ever fucking seen. It is so funny. There's been people in their lives that have taken on a superiority complex against God. I mean, Stalin in the 40s, the Beatles, and then there's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there's so many great lines in this film, and if you haven't seen it, go and check this movie out.
So this is about Arnold Schwarzenegger essentially fighting the devil, right?
Yeah, he's protecting a girl. He's a bodyguard. And he protects the girl against the devil. And there's just so many great one-liner in this movie. Like the opening scene, there's like this high-tech, complex chase scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger is literally being hung from a helicopter by a rope on his back, and he is chasing a deranged old priest. So yes, that's my only thing. I just said go check this movie out because it's hilarious.
I also want to make a recommendation. Thanks to Josh, he came over on Friday, and I discovered my new absolute favorite comedy. It's Dr. Strangelove.
Oh.
Or how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb.
That is a Stanley Kubrick film.
Yes, it is phenomenal. It was
Peter Sellers stars in it.
Yeah, he made it in 1964. Essentially, in the Cold War, and you have the military who provokes an attack on Russia, nuclear weapons, and hilarity ensues.
You gotta start worrying about your bodily fluids.
Yeah, hilarity ensues, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It's the best. Oh, it's in my top 3 favorite movies.
And it speaks so much about Kubrick's ability to make completely timeless films.
Yes.
Name me another comedy that was released in the 60s that is still at all relevant today.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think that another thing about that movie that's really cool is that you could tell the guys making that movie had such fun making that movie. That you could see guys like when Peter Sellers is doing his crazy left arm thing. Like all the actors around him are trying to hold in their laughter.
Yeah, we looked that up. It took a lot of editing to get it just right because people were trying not to laugh, and I was laughing hysterically at that part. It was so. Peter Sellers is phenomenal. He played 3 characters in the movie, and absolutely phenomenal. Put that movie on your list to watch this weekend. Dr. Strangelove.
And End of Days.
Well, thanks for those final words, guys. That was great. We're going to end it with the worst joke of the week. And this week it is, why did the bicycle fall over?
Oh, God, why?
Because it was too tired.
Aww.
Thanks Thanks for listening to episode 6 of our podcast. We air weekly every Monday morning, and you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much every major podcast service. To contact us, you can send us an email at thedigitalrelics@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, suggestions, and opinions. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.